She came through those airport doors looking like the flight had drained the very soul out of her. No TLC cameras, no dramatic soundtrack swelling in the background, just a woman with mascara smeared down her face, holding onto a shaking dog crate like it was the last familiar thing she owned. No fancy bags. No polished entrance. Just raw emotion. Her voice was barely there when she whispered the only word she could manage. "He promised to protect me." 6 seconds. Shaky footage. Shot not by a crew but by her sister. Uploaded quietly, probably because no one in that family had the strength to write anything more than, "She's back." And within minutes, fans didn't laugh or meme it, they reacted like they'd been punched right in the chest. You've seen Jasmine yell into her phone 100 times, ranting, crying, deleting posts, then putting them back up again. But this wasn't that. There was no performance in this clip. No filters, no edits. The woman who'd built her whole persona on being loud and unfiltered had just been shut down by something even louder, the US immigration system. And you could see it. Something inside her had cracked. And this time, it wasn't just another storyline. If you've ever wondered how reality TV stops being entertainment and turns into real heartbreak, well, buckle up. And hey, hit subscribe if you want the parts producers never show, and tell me in the comments, did you ever think it would end like this for her? Because this moment, Jasmine's quiet, tear-stained arrival back in Panama, never made it onto the show. It wasn't in the finale, wasn't teased in a trailer, and definitely didn't get squeezed into one of those wild tell-all episodes they used to distract from what's actually happening. This was the real final scene of a story nobody scripted, but everyone ended up watching. Not on TLC, but on TikTok, on Reddit, on gossip sites. And to understand how she got here, we have to rewind. Before that airport clip, there was a picture, a deleted one. Stayed online for maybe 45 minutes, and that was all it took. Matt, arm in a sling, face tired. Caption with something like, "I'll be okay." No hashtags, no clever wording. Just a short sentence that screamed everything it didn't explain. No tag for Jasmine. No Jasmine in the picture. No Jasmine in the comments. And if you followed this cast for even 5 minutes, you know, when Jasmine vanishes from her own feed, that's not silence, that's a siren. Nobody knew that single hospital selfie would end up being the spark that lit the fuse and blew up everything, including her American dream. Rewind again. 1 week before her return to Panama video exploded online, Matt suddenly appeared on Instagram. Not with jokes, not with a live Q&A, not hyping anything for attention. Just a photo. A plain hospital curtain behind him, a tired, almost shocked, look on his face, and his arms strapped tight in a sling. Caption: "Rough night. I'll be okay." Nothing else. No location. No hint of how he got hurt. But 90-Day fans? They know a signal when they see one. And then it got stranger. Within 45 minutes, the post was gone. Replaced by a cropped, blurred version with a playful filter slapped on like he just bumped into a wall or slipped on a tile floor. But his eyes didn't match the filter. He looked like a man still trying to make sense of something big. And fans weren't just asking, what happened to him? They were asking the real question, where was Jasmine? No repost from her. No pray for us. No dramatic stories filmed in low light with tissues and trembling lips. Her account went silent. Completely silent. And honestly, that said more than any confession ever could. Because if Jasmine is talented at anything, it's posting. Heartache? She posts. Toothache? She posts. Someone glances at her sideways during dinner? She posts. Then suddenly, nothing. That's when fans realize something was terribly wrong. She's the type who goes live and rants for an hour straight if someone breathes wrong in her direction. But this time, nothing. Total silence. Meanwhile, Gino was hovering on social media, not saying a word about the injury but making sure everyone saw her reactions. She liked a few pointed comments, tossed out a couple of cryptic posts with sharp little captions like, "People play games until they get played," and "Not all lies come with noise." Subtle? Not really. Coincidental? Not with Matt's messy history. Fans didn't need much to start connecting dots. And once they did, everything went off like a firecracker. Reddit threads started multiplying by the hour. Memes vanished, replaced by blurry screenshots and frozen frames pulled from every corner of the internet. Someone dug up a TikTok from a cast hangout. Nothing dramatic, just people mingling, until viewers spotted him. Matt. In the background. Half hidden. But his arm was already in a sling. And the second the person filming realized he'd accidentally caught something he shouldn't have, the camera jerked away like it had touched a hot stove. That was the moment everything shifted. For fans, this wasn't gossip anymore. This was a cover-up. Then TLC finally stepped in. But instead of clearing the air, they made things murkier. A stiff, robotic statement showed up on a blog. Matt experienced an offset injury during a personal incident. We are respecting privacy at this time. If you know the history of this franchise, that wording isn't comforting. It's a neon warning sign. Offset injury is the same phrase they've used to dodge explaining fights, arrests, and disasters they'd rather pretend never happened. This were just a gym mishap? They'd say that. A simple car accident? They'd say that too. PR only hides the truth when the truth is too messy to say out loud. Right now, the truth felt radioactive. So TLC wrapped it in fog. Comment sections spun out instantly. People dug up old clips of Jasmine losing her temper when Matt didn't text back fast enough. Others turned on Gino because, let's be honest, he's an easy target. He's had controlling moments on camera. He's been caught in sketchy DMs. He's been dumped, dragged, and memed for years. So when they saw Matt injured, fans didn't wait. They slapped the villain label right on Gino's forehead. And Jasmine? Till nothing. No posts. No defense. No denial. Not even proof she was still in the country. Until one random night, a shaky story popped up. No glam, no music, just swollen eyes, trembling voice. She started talking about betrayal, about trust, but the video vanished in under 2 minutes. Gone. Like it had never happened. This wasn't reality TV anymore. This was real life, messy, quiet, and full of consequences. Then came the screenshot that changed everything. Jasmine's comeback post should have been dramatic. A full face, dramatic lighting, some poetic heartbreak caption. But what she gave instead looked like a phone glitching in the middle of a meltdown. The photo was fuzzy, her eyes puffy, mascara smudged like tiny commas. Caption rambled, then stopped abruptly. It began with, "I gave everything for this love," shifted into disappointment, then ended with the line nobody could ignore. "And now, because of one mistake, I might lose everything I built." Post lasted 7 minutes. But 7 minutes on her account is practically a lifetime. What came next wasn't strategy, it was digital chaos. As she flooded her stories, a low-voice selfie video about broken trust, a sweet throwback reel of her and Matt on a date, a black screen with white text. "He said he'd protect me." Swipe. Delete. She started liking comments calling Matt a liar. Then unliked them. Then liked them again an hour later. Instagram had a heartbeat, hers was racing. Longtime viewers could tell this wasn't content. This wasn't clickbait. This was a woman truly unraveling. Meanwhile, Gino was busy weaving his own side of the story. First, he dipped in slowly. Those vague little denials, cryptic quotes, and cheesy reposts like the truth always comes out, but once his name started showing up under every viral post about Matt's injury, something in him snapped. He stopped with the passive-aggressive hints and jumped straight into the comments. And these weren't his usual lazy comebacks. This time, he sounded cornered. One comment read, "Y'all about to see who really lied?" Keep tagging my name like you won't hear from my lawyer." That one word, lawyer, changed the whole tone. Fans felt it instantly. This wasn't playful fandom drama anymore. Gino looked like someone bracing for impact. Then he made the worst decision of all. He went live. No plan. No PR rep, no filter. Someone in the chat asked him straight out, "Were you involved in what happened to Matt?" His whole expression tightened. He took a breath, and then it all came spilling out. "This is defamation. People are lying on my name. They're spreading crap. They don't understand. And some of you are going to regret it legally." He didn't blink. Not once. That wasn't a man calmly defending himself. That was a man under pressure, watching the walls close in. Reddit exploded a few hours later. Theories flew faster than Jasmine could delete stories. Fans practically turned into amateur detectives. One person compared hotel curtains between Gino's live and a friend's post. Another looked up flight records from his layover. Others matched carpet patterns, mirror reflections, and timestamp shadows across Instagram posts. Stopped feeling like reality TV gossip and started feeling like a true crime investigation. But then something interesting happened. The theory shifted. It wasn't "who hurt Matt" anymore. It became, "why is everyone so terrified to explain what happened?" Because if this were just a lover's fight or a messy breakup, there wouldn't be this much panic. There wouldn't be personal incident press statements. There wouldn't be the phrase offset injury, the same phrase TLC uses when something serious, sometimes legally serious, goes down. And longtime fans know the real red flag. When an injury overlaps with immigration paperwork, things turn federal fast. This isn't storyline drama. This becomes government-level scrutiny, a case folder with someone's name on it, sitting on a desk, one decision away from a deportation order. Suddenly, Jasmine's scattered captions started looking less like emotional chaos and more like clues. In one deleted post, she wrote, "All I did was sign papers for love." Then she yanked it down within an hour. Fans froze. Papers signed? During the same week as Matt's injury? What kind of papers, and why was she terrified the moment she typed it? Then other puzzle pieces fell into place. Her teary story where she whispered, "I don't know where I'll be next month." Her comments about betrayal, not from a partner but something colder, more official. And then the line, the one she tried to bury, in that long, messy caption, "I signed it to feel safer here." That was the moment the fandom stopped joking around. Because immigration law doesn't run on emotion. It runs on checkboxes, timelines, and red flags. One wrong signature. One inconsistent story. One injury report with your name attached, even indirectly. That's all it takes for a temporary visa holder to become under review. And suddenly, Jasmine's meltdown looked very real. Because once fans made the connection, they remembered that clip, brushed off at the time, where she cried, "If they take me, I lose everything." It had sounded dramatic back then. Now, felt like the truth slipping out. People went digging into old episodes and past live streams. And there it was, years of comments hinting at the same fear. She'd said things like, "This is my new home. I can't go back there. I left my whole life behind." For her, staying in the US wasn't a dream, it was a lifeline. And fans were finally starting to see why she came home through that airport looking like a ghost. At the time, all those dramatic moments from Jasmine felt theatrical, almost exaggerated for the cameras. But now? They felt like warnings we'd all missed. Viewers who once saw her as messy but harmless suddenly started spotting patterns. Yes, she bounced from rage to romance, meltdown to makeup, but one thing never changed: her fear of losing her life in the US. Not just the relationship. Not just the show. But the status, the platform, the chance to never fade back into the life she'd fought to leave. So when Matt showed up injured, fans began asking a question no one wanted to say out loud. Did she pressure him to word something a certain way so her name wouldn't end up in an official report? Now, this is speculation. But history matters. This franchise has brushed up against legal gray zones before. Other cast members have had arrests, filed reports, or found themselves tangled in disputes that mysteriously held up immigration renewals. Some storylines never aired. Some were tossed out in a single sentence during a tell-all. But fans don't forget. Old tea always comes boiling back when new drama hits. And this time, the fire spread faster than ever thanks to TikTok sleuths, Reddit analysts, and a million comment section detectives. Became a courtroom in reverse. People picked sides first, and then hunted for evidence to back up their narrative. Depending on who you asked, Jasmine was either a frightened woman used and discarded or a manipulator trying to twist a man's words to protect her own footing in the country. Matt was either a victim keeping quiet or an opportunist hiding behind vagueness. And Gino, poor Gino, ended up dragged into a mess he might not have even been near. He was either the innocent bystander or the convenient villain. But underneath all the fighting, there was one thing everyone agreed on. TLC wasn't saying nearly enough. This is the same network that gave Jasmine full monologues over a missed text message. Yet suddenly, with a cast member in a hospital sling and whispers of immigration fallout swirling, they went silent. By the time Matt popped up again with that nervous little smile and a vague "accidents happen," the silence felt louder than the drama. Felt like the network was hiding something, or trying not to touch a legal minefield. And then the spark that blew everything up came from the quietest place possible. A whisper. A Reddit user casually mentioned hearing a voice note, then disappeared. 2 hours later, someone else claimed to have the clip and uploaded it to a small alt account. Didn't stay small for long. People screen recorded it, slowed it down, analyzed every breath. And once the fandom got hold of it, there was no putting the genie back in the bottle. The voice sounded like Jasmine, same rhythm, same emotional peaks. But she wasn't screaming. She was pleading. Her words circled one point over and over. Don't change your story. Don't make it worse. You know what this can do to me. You promised you'd protect me. There was no threat in her tone. No yelling. But that almost made it worse. People described it as strategic vulnerability, emotional pressure without taking responsibility. Not pleading for the relationship. Not worrying about the truth. She allegedly focused on her brand deals, her work, her future, her life, and the US fans said you could hear her breath catch when she hinted at losing everything she'd built because of what Matt might say in a report. No one knows the origins of the clip. No official source has verified it. No full context has surfaced. Jasmine hasn't confirmed it's her. Matt hasn't addressed it. But the reaction? That told its own story. For a lot of people, everything shifted. Emotion doesn't always equal honesty. Drama doesn't always equal harmless. For the first time, many viewers looked at Jasmine and didn't just see chaos. They saw someone who might have crossed a line and used love as the leverage. And at the center of it all was Matt, quiet, guarded, still wearing that sling in old promo shots, never naming names, never pointing fingers. Just sitting in the eye of a storm he never explained. The time, Matt's silence looked noble, like he was shielding someone from online hate or trying to stop the fandom from spiraling. But now? That silence feels heavier, almost protective in a different way. Not of someone else, but of himself. 'Cause when your partner is terrified of consequences, their fear can bleed into your decisions. And when they say, "You're the only one who can keep my life from falling apart," that becomes a pressure you can actually feel in your chest. Now add hospital lights. Add producers chasing statements. Add lawyer voicemails. That point, the stress stops being emotional and starts being systemic. If Matt tells the entire truth, and that truth even brushes up against Jasmine, it could spark immigration red flags. If he softens it, hides details, or leaves her name out entirely, then he's stuck holding the weight of a half-truth that could come back years later. Fans called him weak for not speaking up. But people who've lived through this kind of relational pressure, people who've loved someone clinging to control, understood him instantly. When someone says, "I thought you loved me," every time you try to tell the truth, clarity becomes a maze. And when you're terrified your honesty could wreck someone's entire legal standing in a country, that fear grabs you by the throat. Before long, the spotlight swung back to Gino. His name had been the easy one to throw around. He had baggage, old clips, past mistakes. He was familiar. Too familiar. And that's exactly why fans stopped and reconsidered. It was all too neat. Too convenient. What if Gino wasn't the villain? What if he was just caught in the crossfire because he already had the bad edit? Suddenly, the timeline didn't scream guilt, it screamed proximity. He was in town. Posts overlapped. Fans connected dots that maybe weren't dots at all. After hearing the alleged voice note, Gino's lawyer talk didn't sound dramatic anymore. It sounded like survival. Because imagine being dragged into months-old theories about someone else's injury. Imagine watching panic unfold in DMs that have nothing to do with you. Imagine your reputation being used as a distraction from someone else's legal fears. Anyone would fight back loudly. And fans began considering another angle. Maybe Jasmine let suspicion drift toward Gino because the audience was already primed to believe the worst about him. Maybe he wasn't the threat, maybe he was the decoy. This wasn't a love triangle anymore. It was a power puzzle. Matt had the statement. Jasmine had the fear. Gino had the convenient villain edit. And once the immigration system got involved, none of them were operating in full truth. Everything in that alleged voice note sounded like someone who knew they had already crossed a line, not by accident but by desperation. Not because they misunderstood the rules, but because they feared they'd broken them. And survival mode can warp judgment in dangerous ways. By the time the clip hit its third re-upload, public opinion had flipped. Not because the system punished her harshly, but because the choices leading up to it were darker than anyone realized. If she truly pressured someone to reshape an injury report to protect her image and visa, then this wasn't heartbreak. This wasn't drama. This was legal manipulation dressed up as love. And the worst part? It wasn't uncovered by a blogger or a YouTube expose. Came from a 6-second video, posted at 2 a.m., on her sister's tiny Instagram account. No edits. No transitions. Just raw reality. The video shows Jasmine walking through the airport, looking nothing like the polished woman viewers were used to. A hoodie slipping off one shoulder. Hair frizzy, almost damp. Mascara smeared like dark watercolor stains down her cheeks. A tiny pet carrier clutched to her chest like it was the last piece of her old life she could hold on to. The weight on her back wasn't luggage. When she reached her sister, she whispered one line, barely louder than the airport announcements. "He promised to protect me." The video cut off there. But fans didn't need more. TikTok had it within seconds. Reddit within minutes. And the whole energy shifted. For weeks, this was entertainment, a sport almost. Team Jasmine. Team Matt. Team Gino. But that 6-second clip killed the entertainment factor instantly. 'Cause you can joke about someone when their drama plays out in front of ring lights. But when they walk through airport security alone, wrecked, silent, it's not content anymore. It's consequence. Until that moment, theories floated around. Maybe she was hiding. Maybe producers locked everything down. Maybe she was offline for mental health. But that video left only one conclusion: she wasn't resting. She wasn't filming. She wasn't offline. She was already gone. And anyone who has watched this show long enough knows, no one gets escorted out of the country for a normal delay. Whatever happened behind the scenes likely moved fast. One misstep connected to the injury. Maybe a follow-up call. Maybe a form didn't match. Maybe a detail triggered a review. When something questionable lands near your visa file, and you don't have permanent status yet, immigration doesn't send you a countdown clock. There's no dramatic scene, no cameras, no goodbyes, just a cold interview room with fluorescent lights, short instructions, and a reminder to take only what you absolutely need. You grab basics. Not your closet, not your brand deals, not the life you built, just what fits in your hands. What nobody realizes is that the TLC contract, the one every cast member signs before their first confessional, is a trapdoor disguised as opportunity. People think it's paperwork about filming schedules and confidentiality. But buried between the non-disclosures and appearance clauses are conditions that bind cast members tighter than any relationship ever could. Not morally. Legally. Producers can film you at your worst and own the footage forever. They can cut your story into whatever shape fits the ratings. They can withhold payment until episodes air months later. They can demand reshoots that reshape the timeline. They can prevent you from telling the truth publicly even when it could clear your name. And if you break the silence clause, even to protect yourself, you owe them more than you ever earned. Jasmine signed that. So did Matt. So did Gino. That means when things went wrong, legally wrong, Jasmine wasn't free to speak. Matt wasn't free to explain. Gino wasn't free to defend himself. Their real lives became collateral. 'Cause contractually, the network story takes priority over your reality. And when Jasmine's airport clip leaked, when fans saw her shaking, mascara-stained, clutching a pet carrier with one strap falling off her shoulder, that raw vulnerability wasn't part of the show. It wasn't lit. It wasn't staged. It wasn't approved. It was the first time she existed outside the edit. And that made it more powerful than any episode they could air. What followed backstage, that's the part fans never hear about. The frantic calls, panic from production, the sudden freeze on statements, coordinated silence. Because a cast member being removed by immigration mid-season is the kind of storyline that can't be edited into comedy or romance. It exposes too much. It reveals the cost of turning real people into cliffhangers. It shows how thin the line is between messy reality TV moment and actual legal consequence. And that's why the network pretended nothing happened. Not because they didn't know, 'cause acknowledging it makes them responsible. Meanwhile, fans kept digging. Someone pulled court logs. Someone else tracked flight numbers. A Reddit moderator said half the threads about the injury and the deportation were removed due to legal risk. TikTok creators whispered about NDAs. Instagram pages posted blurred screenshots of emails they couldn't legally publish. And while the internet played detective, 3 people, the 3 who lived it, stayed quiet. Matt, the man who now carries the weight of what he did say and what he didn't. Gino, the man who tried to clear his name while everyone used him as a plot twist. And Jasmine, a woman who left the country with nothing but a pet carrier, a hoodie, and the last sentence she managed to say before the story swallowed her whole. He promised to protect me. But here's the truth nobody wants to confront. Protection ends where contracts begin. Love ends where legal systems take over. Fame ends where you stop being profitable. And the story? The story only ends for the viewers. People in it keep living the consequences long after the cameras stop rolling.